Hello everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I am actually really excited because I'm trying something new. I usually do mid-month and end of the month wrap-ups, but those videos can be pretty long because I'll be talking about like maybe 15 books in one of those videos, and it'll go like an hour long because I tend to gush or rant about the books that I'm reading. So I thought I would try a weekly wrap up. That way I won't have as long of a video for you guys, and I can dive into more details or more of my feelings on these books, and I won't feel strapped for time. So this is my beginning of this. I hope it goes okay. Let me know in the comments down below if you like this new format, if you're interested, if you like this more than my mid-month wrap-ups, basically. I might do an end of the month like kind of video going over my faves or stats or whatever. I'm not positive. We'll see how it goes. But let's quickly dive into my first week of March. Okay, so let's dive into the books that I read for the first week of March. It may be a slightly longer than a full week because I did want to pick it up right after the end of February since I did the end of the month for February. So anyways, the dates will be listed down below if you're interested. I'm sure you don't really care, but anyways, let me go ahead and dive in because I didn't read as many books as I thought I would, but some of these were big ones. So the first book that I want to talk about is Dragonfly in Amber. This is for the Outlander read-along. This is a reread for me. I listened to this on audiobook, plus while I was reading it on ebook. I'm trying to annotate these, which I still needed to get done on this, but this is the second book in the Outlander series. This picks up right after the last book, although there are some changes. So it's kind of hard because I don't want to give anything away, but basically we have Claire and Jamie Fraser. They're on their way to basically go to Paris because they are going to, they're kind of also on the run with everything that went down in the last book. But also their goal is to stop the Jacobite War, the Rising, you know, where it's all these Scotland Highlanders are going to be like die. Lots of these whole families died out at this point. So they are in Paris, kind of a lot of political intrigue, trying to reach out to kind of become friends and also get in Charles Stewart's inner circle. Claire is pregnant. And Jamie's still recovering from the trauma that he experienced in the first book. So there's so much that goes down in this book. I mean, obviously, like, it's hard to kind of do a wrap up. Plus, I don't want to give too many things away because we have two timelines. I guess slight spoilers here, you guys. This book, the reason it was really hard for me to get into is because it picks up like also in different time in the 1960s where Claire has been back living in the future or the current time, whatever, not in the past. And she was with Frank and she has like a grown daughter and they're visiting Scotland and stuff. And she's trying to look into this Jacobites and Jamie Fraser and all of his people in like history and stuff. So we know that she had to go back for some reason and she went back to Frank. And so I hate it when it's like not Jamie and Claire together. I'm not really into that. And it's like so slow moving when it's in like the 1960s time. So that's like kind of frustrating to me. It feels like it drags. Also, this book, you guys, is super depressing. So I'm going to say end of spoilers here, but a lot of bad stuff goes on in this book. Like, I feel like there's not a lot of hope. That you still had hope in the love story and everything going on in the first book, but this just has like one depressing thing happening after the other. I do say once they leave leave Paris and go back to Scotland, that's where I'm happy. I like the Scotland feel, the vibes of Scotland more than them being in Paris. So once they headed back and you got to see Jenny and all the people, you know, I love Dougal. So once you see all those people again, I'm happy. So reread of this, it's not my favorite, but I gave it 4 stars. I still really enjoyed it. I still think Diana is like a phenomenal writer. Some people don't like how detailed she is. I mean, this is a thick book, you guys. I think this is This version is like 700 and something pages, but I know other prints are even like longer, but it's a thick one. It's a long one. So this took me a while to like trudge through this and get through this one, especially since it was kind of slow moving for me. But I gave it 4 stars. I think it's like a 2.5 on the chilies. They're not super spicy, but there is spice in here, and Jamie Fraser is still swoon worthy, you guys. I love him so much. Okay, so the next book that I read was an arc, and this is Jump on 3 by J. Wolfe. I absolutely loved this book. This is her 3rd book in the Savage Academy. I read her Savage U. What was the first one? Anyways, I've read all the Savage series, and I really love this series. So this one is the 3rd book, and I do really think that it would benefit from reading the second one. You don't necessarily have to read the first one, but the second one is actually this character's twin sister's book. And it kind of sets up some characters in here. So anyways, this is between Ivan and Evelyn. And Evelyn is the twin sister of the heroine from the previous book. And in that previous book, her sister had a crush on Ivan. They would study together. They worked worked in the library together and just were really good friends. He thought they were just friends. She was crushing on him, kind of asked him out, made the move, and he kind of denied her. So that was kind of hard on her. Obviously, she found her love in that book. But in this, Evelyn is actually her twin, and she's neurodivergent, and her sisters had to make a lot of sacrifices for her. They had to move to this school because she was very badly bullied at the previous school. Her family's not supportive, but the beautiful thing about this book, you guys, and the last book too, is these twin sisters, their bond, the love they have for each other. It's beautiful. In this, Evelyn is getting bullied at this school too, and she just kind of keeps it under wraps and doesn't want her sister to know, where she's like completing girls' homeworks and stuff. She's on the swim team, and so she feels like she has to do that because this is like the captain of the swim team, and she just does it. So she has her favorite like room that she does her studying in the library, and she's neurodivergent, so she has to have things a specific way. I think that Julia Wolfe did a really good job of like explaining her and the things that she's very particular about, and it made sense and you can understand. Obviously, I don't know. I don't know what that's like, to be neurodivergent or on the spectrum or anything like that, but I think it's really handled well. And Ivan has been like really interested in her. Well, he ends up like kind of getting her room a couple times, and she's pissed. She doesn't know it's him. She just knows somebody took her room. And like, so she kind of left a note for him, and then they start like kind of like texting through this note, and he kind of figured it out was her pretty right away, but he wanted to reach out to her. This is called Jump on 3. At the beginning, you're kind of, because it's like she's kind of set in her ways and what works for her. And she's really scared to do this dive, like off this huge diving board thing that they have to do on the swim team. And she can't get herself to do it. And Ivan kind of like helps her. So they slowly start to build this like close relationship. He like likes her, everything about her, but she is afraid to go there because her sister was so into him. And so she doesn't want to betray her sister or cause any problems. And so she's very black and white, looking at it that way. Ivan is an amazing hero, you guys. He's Russian. He is tatted. His dad is like not mafia, but like he's like super powerful, super rich, and he has clubs here. And so he's like actually paid for this guy's club that is actually from one of the other series, which was cool. And so he ends up having to like go there multiple nights a week to have to work, and she ends up following him, like wanting to know what he's up to. But these two were just so cute. I loved how sensitive he was to her, and he loved everything about her, and it was just a very heartwarming, beautiful romance. So I gave this one 5 stars, and it was 3 chilies. Okay, so the next book that I read was another big one. And this was one of the ones that took me a little bit to read, even though I couldn't put it down. This is Pam Godwin's new release. It hasn't released yet. I believe it's coming out on the 12th, but I got an arc for it, and I was seriously giddy that I got this arc. This is Hills of Shivers and Shadows. This is a seriously dark romance. It is set in Alaska. This was like over 700 pages, but I couldn't put it down. It took me a few days to read it though. So that's kind of why I haven't read as many books this week. But like I'm telling you guys, this book was insane. It is so good. So this is the first book that's going to be a trilogy. So it does end on a cliffhanger. So just be aware. Honestly, I couldn't put it down. And I think it ended in the perfect exact spot that it needed to. The book didn't feel too long because it was like I couldn't put it down, and she's building, you know, a lot of character growth and development and the things that happen in this book. So it's very vague that I have to be on this, but I will give you like the basic setup because I don't want to give any spoilers. I also, even though I know it was dark and I know Pam Godwin did give triggers, I did not read the triggers. That is up to you. I trust Pam Godwin. I love her writing. I think she's the best dark romance author out there. And I didn't want to spoil anything. So I kind of went in, I knew the general premise, but I went in blind. I didn't want to look at any of the trigger warnings. And I'm really glad I didn't because it was shocking. This book is severely dark. So if you're not completely comfortable with that or you're worried, I would definitely check the triggers. She's got a huge list of them. But I went in blind and I'm glad I did. With dark romance, it's very subjective, but Pam Godwin's is very dark, and she is it's gonna go over things that are very uncomfortable and hard to read. But that's what I feel like dark romance is here to push our boundaries, to push the limits, to make us uncomfortable, to make us go, ooh. So I loved it. Anyways, let me give you guys the general premise. This is about Frankie. She is married. She is a trauma nurse, and she lives on like a kind of like a private island off of Alaska with her husband. He's a super rich billionaire. And so you have to like kind of get to the island by boat. And all of that. So in the beginning of this, she is pregnant. And she has told her husband, they get in a huge argument because he did not want children and he wants her to get rid of it. And she does not want to do that. So they get in a big argument and he kind of leaves it like, we'll discuss it later. I'll get home early tonight. And so she's kind of waiting him out to see if he comes. And she kind of knows he's not going to show up. And she had kind of like packed a bunch of her shit and put it in her boat because she has her own boat to leave the island. But while she's waiting for her husband to show up, she gets attacked and she is actually kidnapped by Denver. Denver is this mysterious guy. You don't know much about him, but he basically kidnaps her, drugs her, binds her up, takes her and flies her. Eventually he gets to his own plane. He flies her out to the middle of nowhere. It's like in the Arctic of Alaska. So there's like nothing around for miles and miles and miles, hundreds of miles. You're in the middle of nowhere. And so he ends up taking her to his home, which is actually called Hills of Shivers and Shadows. And that basically he takes her home and there's no way out because where is she going to run to? You would die from the conditions trying to run away. Their only way out is by the plane, and he's the only one that knows how to fly it. Now, she shows up to this home, and he has 3 sons. So he has Leo, which is Leonid, and Kodiak, which we call Cody, and then Wolfson, which is Wolf. So these are the 3 sons. One of them's pretty receptive to her. 2 are like, I don't want her here. They're pretty negative towards her and they have their reasons. And she's kind of stuck in this weird kind of environment, family dynamic, and she doesn't know what to do. She wants to get back to her husband. And since she had her stuff packed, it looks like she left her husband. So she's not even knowing if he's going to look for her or not. So you guys, I could talk and talk and talk about this because a lot of shit goes on with her. She has to struggle really hard. The reveals that you find out about these sons, the reveals about Denver, there's some crazy stuff happening. But where it did the twist, I did not see it going there, and it was shocking and disturbing. and it'll push you. So there's a lot of dark content in here, but I freaking loved it. Honestly, like it would have probably been a 6-star, but like it's not a finished book, so I don't feel good giving it a 6-star where I don't know where this journey is taking us. I just feel like, Pam Godwin, you just gotta trust her because she's gonna take you on a crazy ride. And, I just love her so much. She is honestly the best dark romance author. I love her. The writing is beautiful. It's uncomfortable. It's traumatizing. There's so much going on in these books. So I don't want to say anything. But I did end up vlogging it. But it's a big spoilery vlog, and I don't want to release that yet. So I'll probably have that vlog. I'll probably post it like a couple weeks after it's released to kind of give people time to read it. And then if they want to see my spoiler vlog, that I'll go into way more detail, but I don't want to ruin it for you. Just please pick up this book. I think you'll have to buy it because I don't think it's not going to be available on Kindle Unlimited. I'm probably going to buy it because I really loved this book. It was crazy. So I ended up giving this 5 stars and then 4 chilies, but some of it's really uncomfortable sexual stuff too. So it's kind of, I don't know, you guys. I can't say anything. But honestly, it was fantastic. I am so excited for the next one. I don't know when she's having it come out because I know she's been working on this one for a while. So I don't know how far into the next one she is, but I'm hoping like we're going to find out more soon. So I would highly recommend it if you can handle dark romance. If you're uncomfortable, check your triggers. I'm not giving trigger warnings because I don't want to give anything away. Okay, so after that one, I had to go to my comfort read. I needed to go to a sweet place after reading that dark romance. So I read Barbarians Tease, which is the Ice Planet Barbarians. That's my like palate cleanser. It's the books I go to. And so this was, I think, number 15. I think that's what it was. And this is between Tashin and Brooke. Brooke was kind of like a hairdresser. She's like one of the group that was taken by that like new batch of humans that kind of came in. And she basically, in the previous book, they got a group got captured by these like kind of slave traders, and they ended up getting rescued and everything. But this basically takes us back to that because they were part of the group that ended up getting taken. And Brooke ends up kind of communicating with them, trying to get the couples together when they're holding them captive. And so they're like, realized she didn't have a partner. And so they put her with Tashin, and they want a breeder. So they kind of like give her almost like, it feels like, I don't know, it's some type of drink that will make her super horny and need to have sex. So they end up kind of having like a one-night stand. He doesn't realize she was given that, and that's why she's being sexual. She thinks it's kind of like a one-off. We had a good time. Let's move on. We can be friends. He thought he was like going to have a mate. So it's kind of uncomfortable for them right after that. And so they're kind of awkward with each other, but eventually they kind of talk things out. She wants to be friends. But he is worried because there were new people on that ship that came when they were captured, and they're going to be waking them up, and he doesn't want her to resonate to one of them. So he ends up talking her into this like little mission thing that ends up just being a way to get her away from the group. And then they kind of go on this journey together. They get to know each other, and they're not going to be friends for that long. So I really liked it. It wasn't like amazing or anything, but it was great. I gave it 4 stars and then 2.5 chilies, and I had a great time. Okay, so the next book I read was another arc, and this was The Law of Deceit by K Webster. This is the 4th book in the Shameful Secrets series, which that series is now available on Kindle Unlimited, so you should check it out. I didn't read the first 2 books. I read the last book, so I got an arc of it, and I absolutely loved it. It was a great male-male romance. So I'm actually planning on reading the other 2 this month. Hopefully I'll get to them. But this is between Dempsey and Sloane. Dempsey is kind of considered the bad twin or whatever. He's twins. His his sister is like the angel, the perfect girl or whatever, but he's really not the bad boy, like, to me. Like, he's just kind of, honestly, he's like a golden retriever hero in this, people. So he's 18 and he has basically been obsessed and in love with his mom's best friend, Sloane. And Sloane is a cop. She's basically lives for her job. She's dedicated. And it's kind of all she really focuses on. She kind of had a family that lived in really poorly, and her family has a lot of shit going on that she kind of gets dragged into this book. Her sister has kind of disappeared with her abusive boyfriend. She's MIA. So she ends up kind of taking her nephew in. And she's also recently kind of like given Dempsey like this cool, like kind of like an iPad for art kind of thing. And it just really shows that she sees him and his interests. Like, she knows he's an artist and he loves art. She doesn't know that she's his muse. Like, he draws her all the time. And so he's actually doesn't really want to go to school, but he finds out there's kind of like a good art program where he can actually show his art, but he has to be a student, and then it could get him, you know, his foot in the door. So he ends up kind of finally deciding to go to school. And so he ends up kind of slowly kind of trying to be a part of her life. He starts bringing her like coffee every day at work. He did a lot of like acts of love, you know, and start helping her with her nephew and bonding with him and being there for her. So all of a sudden it kind of churns for her, because she's known him since he was a baby. She's been best friends with his mom since they were teens, or even younger than that, I believe. So all of a sudden when she starts getting attracted to him, she feels really guilty. I mean, she's known him his whole life, but he is really going to pursue her. And so they start to kind of hit it off, and they're going to kind of have a secret relationship, because like, what is his mother going to think? Or his father, even, like, anybody, because she's also a cop. She's like, you know, has to have that good image. There's some suspense going on because there is stuff going on with her family and like a biker gang and like corruption in the police department. So that's kind of like another thing that's thrown in there. I thought this was good. I didn't love it as much as the previous book. I thought that they had a good chemistry and it was sweet. I just didn't like connect to it as much as the previous book, but I still really enjoyed it. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars and I believe 2.5 chilies. Okay, so the last book that I read was Accidentally Compromising the Duke by Stacy Reid. I loved this book. I think it was so cute. I love Stacy Reid. I'm trying to read more of her books because I just found I loved her last year, and I do need to read more historical romance. So in this, we have Adeline and Edmund, and Adeline is actually supposed to be getting married to this other guy that's really creepy that groped her, and her parents just are basically going to marry her off to him, and she does not want to marry this guy. She's had kind of a friendship going on with another man, but he's like not, you know, as esteemed or, you know, he set up for her family when her family has some money issues. And so she decides she's going to sneak into his bedroom at like this weekend, you know, party, how they have those, and like get caught in a compromising position. So then her parents can't make her marry that other guy. Unfortunately, she goes in and it's not the guy she was expecting. And she literally like ends up kind of in bed with him, and they're like kissing and stuff in the dark. And then she hears his voice and realizes it's not him. And then of course they get caught. So this Duke is kind of like known as the Mad Duke, which doesn't even make sense because he's not crazy or anything, but his wife died during childbirth, and he needs a new wife now finally. He has 2 daughters, and so he needs a mother for his daughters. So he's like kind of like, oh, well, this worked out. He was trying to get married anyways. So he's like, let's get married. And so he basically takes her home, and they get married, and she starts to build a relationship with his daughters, but she soon realizes he's not going to be like sexual with me. He had her in a different room instead of like the Duchess's room. It was like all blocked up, like closed off from like when his wife died. And you kind of find out that he has a lot of trauma with his wife dying during childbirth, and that he blames himself because he wanted to heir so bad, even though she had difficult childbirths before. So he doesn't want to be sexual, and he tries to fight it for a really long time because he doesn't want her to get pregnant. And then she freaks out because she's like, wait, what do you mean? Like, I want a child. You never said that I wasn't allowed to have a child. And so they have that kind of conflict. The problem is he's super attracted to her, and she kind of does some seducing ways. And so eventually they do get sexual, but he tries not to finish inside her so that he won't have a baby. So that's kind of like the main conflict in between them on that. But I really loved this. I loved he was just such a broody, like tortured hero, and I just thought it was so cute and sweet. So I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars, and then I think I gave it 3 chilies. Says it did have some good spice in it, and they were really hot together. So I loved it. Okay, so that's going to be my weekly wrap up for the first week of March. Thank you so much for watching this, you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Again, I didn't do that many books this week because it was, a couple of thicker ones. So hopefully next week will be better. We just had my dad's funeral this weekend, so I didn't get a lot of reading done, but I'm going to try and pick it up. But if you can, as always, please subscribe, leave me a comment down below, like the video. I appreciate hearing from you guys, and I will see you on next week's wrap up.